Hello and welcome to the shed. In today's video I'm going to be showing you how to make cork so you can make your own milk paint. So let's jump in and get started. One thing we need to look at is the type of milk when we're making quark, and while theoretically you can make it out of any type of milk, the ideal is skim. I couldn't get skim milk. I had this one that was reduced high-low, which it is at where's the fat content, 1.3%. You can get your skim milk at about, I think it's 0.7, so whichever milk you can source that has the lowest fat content. The fat's going to make the milk paint go off faster, so we're looking for as lower fat content as possible. And the one other thing you're going to need is just some plain old white vinegar. So what I've got here is a cooker. You can use whatever type of cooker you want. I happen to have this gas one, so that's what I'm going to use. So I'm going to light this up, I'm going to sit it on top, and I'm going to pour all of this milk in. Now I'm working with 2 litres here because I'm going to be doing a few videos related to milk paint, so I'm going to make a larger batch. So what we need to do here is heat this up to blood temperature. 37.5, 37 degrees, 38 degrees, somewhere around there is what we're aiming for. Now you could use a thermometer for that, but the way I do this is I just let this heat up and I keep sticking my finger in and just stirring it around. Once that starts going from feeling cold to your touch to feeling slightly warm, we'll turn the heat off. We know we've reached our blood temperature because it'll only feel warm to the touch once it's reached blood temperature. Now, because this was quite cold when I put it in here, you can hear that sizzling. That's a little bit of condensation because I'm heating something that's really cold, so I've formed condensation on the bottom of the pot here. If you really wanted to, when you do this, you could actually take this out of the fridge ahead of time and just let it sit and warm up a little bit, but really it doesn't matter. So we're just going to keep warming this up and giving it a little twirl with our finger. You want it heated evenly, so that's why stirring it's a good idea. And it really shouldn't take long, even from the fridge. It really won't take long to heat up. You don't want to put it on too high a temperature. You don't want to curdle it or boil it all of a sudden. So if you are using an induction cooktop, be very careful with your temperature selections because I know how fast they can heat up. There we go, that's starting to feel warm to the touch. Just going to let it go a second longer because it's still a little bit cooler on the top. And there we go, I've cut my gas bottle off. That'll empty the gas out of the system, and then I'll move it out of the way. I can lift this off here. I'm just going to put this cooker over here, out of the way, and we'll set the pot here. Now, there's varying amounts of vinegar that people suggest. I like to add 3/4 to a cup per litre. I like to err on a little bit too much rather than not enough, so what I'm going to do, since I've got 2 litres here, is I'm just going to put 2 cups in. You could get away with 3/4 of a cup. I've seen some people suggest that you only put half a cup per litre, but I've tried half a cup per litre and it really doesn't work. So what you're looking to do is maximise your separation here. So when I say quark, essentially what we're talking about is cheese curd. So we're doing a basic, what would be considered a cheese curd separation using acid rather than the enzyme that you get from a calf called rennet. It's been about 20 minutes now, and we can see here that this is sort of separated into 2 parts, which will be more noticeable when we actually sieve it. I'm hoping this other pot that I've got here is actually large enough to take this. So we're just going to chip this through here. Sometimes you do have some smaller lumps and stuff in here, and it does splash a little bit if you're not careful. And I'm just going to let that leak through. You do get a bit of smaller stuff coming through sometimes, and since I'm using the this high-low, I find the high-low, for whatever reason, doesn't separate quite as well as a skim milk. The other thing that can help here is one of these silicone spatulas, and you just run that along the sieve. You're not looking to push it through, you're just
pulling it away from the sieve so the liquid can get through, because what happens is all of the milk curd can block your sieve up a little bit. Now, you could use some cheesecloth if you really wanted to, but there's no real advantage here unless you really care that you're going to get every little tiny bit. I don't think it matters too much if you leave a little bit behind. We're not that pedantic, that little bit is not really going to make much difference, in my opinion. So, now that I've tipped that out of there, I can see that this sitting here is actually sitting in the liquid, so I'm actually just going to transfer this across here. And we can clearly see here the yellow. We can still see there's a little bit of white, and that is a bit of the cheese curd, the really, really fine stuff that did make it through. But it's so little that I'm not too worried about it, but you can see the yellow, which is actually your whey. That's where sort of whey protein comes from. We can see that this has still got a lot of liquid in it sitting here. So what we need to do is actually let this sit. You can obviously speed it up as I was by scooping around here, but what you want is for nearly all that liquid to actually separate out, and the best way to do that is just to let it sit and do that itself. So what I like to do is just let it sit for, once again, 10-15 minutes. So I'll be back with you once again in another 10 or 15 minutes, and you can see the final product. In minutes, you can see most of that has now gone out of it, and this is what we want to work with. You don't want your quark to be too dry when you're actually making your milk paint. If it does end up being a little bit dry, you have to actually add a little bit of extra water when you make your milk paint. But this is what we're sort of looking for. You can see there's still a bit of liquid coming out of it. That's fine. Could leave it a little bit longer, but that's how I like to use it. It's sort of got a little bit of wobble because it's got a bit of moisture to it still. And I'll just put that straight in a container. So we can see it has quite a fine texture to it, and essentially what we have here now is the basis of cheese. It's a cheese curd. It's essentially cottage cheese, or low-fat cottage cheese, I suppose, at this point. So this can go in the fridge, because you can make this a day to maybe 3 days ahead of time. You don't want to have it sitting around for too long before you make it, because it just starts to go off, like the tackiness of it starts to go off, that you want for your milk paint. But that's how we make our quark. So there you have it, folks. That's how you make your quark, or essentially cheese curd, for making your own milk paint. I have heard that you can buy it in supermarkets in some places in Europe. I don't know about that. You'll have to let me know down below if that's true. But in all honesty, I don't see why you wouldn't want to make it yourself. It's easy. You just grab your milk and a little bit of vinegar, and so it's a fairly cheap process, and in all honesty, you can have this done inside an hour. Most of it's just waiting for it to separate and then sieving it out, and you're done. So it's really not a difficult process at all. So if you like this video, please do like and subscribe down below. While you're down there, do sound off in the comments. Let me know if you have a different process for making your quark, or maybe if you've seen it in the supermarkets here in Australia and other places, leave that down below with some brands if you've used those and all that sort of thing to help everybody out. And if you'd like to see another great video, such as the one you've seen here today, do check out the video on screen here of how to actually make your own milk paint. Bye for now.